All right, we're on. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Dean Barton, and today I'm going to be talking all about planning permission. Planning permission is going to play a huge part in any construction business, whether you're going to be dealing with a planning application for a client or you're dealing with planning conditions in terms of a job and actually delivering a project. But also, as you progress further on down the line, you might want to look at things like property development, which is all heavily based around planning permission. Now, planning permission is planning law, and I think a lot of people don't fully understand what it is, and it's going to play a huge part into anything that you want to do with property. So I've started with this on purpose because I will do more podcasts on all different types of aspects of property, all the things that I'm up to and what I get involved in. But it all starts with planning permission. When you understand what planning permission is, how it works, it's going to make your life so much easier. So not only, like I say, from the aspect of delivering jobs and working on jobs for clients, but actually in terms of later on maybe getting your own developments, doing your own flips on houses and other stuff to make more money and multiply your money as investments. So planning permission is a law, and it is set out from government. So at the very top level, you have got what is called the National Planning Policy Framework, the NPPF. That is the document that the government made. And you can imagine it is a laborious document with subsection A2649, hashtag 60 fucking everything, one of the really most boring, laborious documents that governments sort of put out. But that is the framework for planning policy, the NPPF. So everything that's dictated in planning is from the NPPF. That's at the very top. If you imagine that, you're seeing this on YouTube, you're watching me doing a visual with my hand. But if you're just listening along to this in the car or wherever you are, imagine that at the very top level. The government made the NPPF. That's got the rules and the laws and basically the framework for planning policy. But then what they do, that NPPF is then given to all of the councils and all of the districts. So wherever you are, whatever county, whatever district and council that you have, they then take that NPPF and they make what is called a local plan. So every single council in the UK has their own local plan. And a local plan basically designates, right, what is the plan for the area? So where are all the schools going? Where are all the doctors going? Where's the new housing going? What's the standards for that area? What's all of the historic buildings, listed buildings, absolutely everything. So there is a solid plan for each council, because obviously the economics and the demographics of every council is very different. Some councils have a hell of a lot more lower working class people, and some councils have a lot more higher end, rich, wealthy people. So the demands are different. You're not going to need different things in different councils because you've got different people living in different areas. So the councils have to interpret the NPPF and make their own local plan and devise a plan that satisfies all of the needs for housing requirements and, everything to do with everyone that's going to live there. Because more people means more infrastructure, more stuff, more hotels for hospitality. You got to think from a council's perspective, they want to drive the economy and they want people coming to their area because they spend money in the hotels, the restaurants, everything around in the area that you live in and you can relate to. Councils want a thriving environment. So an NPPF, there is basically at the minute, there is a shortage of housing in the UK. There is a shortage every year of 380,000, I think is the actual figure. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's in that zone. There is a shortage of housing. But the planning system is so archaic. If you've ever bought properties and done planning applications, you know how long it fucking takes. It's not an easy move to do. It's very old school. It hasn't really moved with the times yet in terms of digital quickness and speed. It takes time. If you put a planning application in, you are going to be very lucky if you get a response in 3 months now for that application. There's going to be lots of backwards and forwards. It is very archaic. So when you understand that there's a local plan, the local plan for your council, there will be two parts. There's a written part, which is the manual, the text, the document, which explains that local plan. And if you're into property and you want to get into property development, you need to find that local plan and read it, because you will learn so much more about your area, the demands, what's needed, what's not needed, and all potential loopholes and angles to play in a planning permission sense. Then there is also a map part. So there is you've got the written part, which is it in words, and then you've got a map which visually displays all the different areas of the council that you're in. So employment areas, residential areas, brownfield land, which is like disused land that could be reused for redevelopment, and all the different high streets, the strategic growth areas, everything is highlighted on that maps. Now, is it easy to find? No. Councils make it very difficult to find. Even if you go on their website and search local plan, you will probably have to go through 5 or 6 different links to be able to find that plan. Most people don't know this stuff exists. But when you do find it, because it is there, every council has one, they do have one. Some of them have it and it's just PDF documents on pages, whereas other councils are a bit more advanced, have got interactive maps, it's a lot easier to see. It is there. That plan is there. Now, the issue you've got is that councils are full of your Veras, your Lindas, your Malcolms and your Daves, old school people, right? Now, so when you understand this, you get people that are emotionally driven. Even in a council government level, you would not believe how fucked up it is. If you ever go to a planning committee meeting where they meet and they discuss planning applications, you will get people that either refuse or accept applications based on their own emotional standpoint. So you will get people that go for let's say it's a new development. You will get someone who hates new development on that committee and they will refuse the application. And they can do that. They can do that. And you are playing with hearts and minds of people on the council that might not make the right decisions. And this is why sometimes planning applications will get refused at council level. But when you know that someone has refused it not based on law grounds, based on the MPPF at the top, like I said about, they've based it more on emotional decisions for the area. This is when bigger developers will actually go to appeal and go to a court that is governed by the government at the higher level, who will then make the decision based on law from the MPPF. Gets a bit complicated, but there's a lot to it. So I'm just giving you an overview of how it all works. But what I'm saying is, planning and council committees do not always make the best decisions, because you're dealing with people, and people have got different drivers, and not everyone wants new development, not everyone wants a particular look, a particular style, but you have to do planning applications based on what is said in the local plan. As long as you are doing that, you're in the right zone to begin with, and that local plan is going to be the backbone of every decision made in a council, okay? Then once you do that and you understand that, within that local plan, there is absolutely everything ticked off. Everything is covered in that local plan, from how many parking spaces are required per house, how many units need to be fitted per site. So in terms of what sizes, because each area is going to be varied on whether they need more 2-bed accommodation because you've got more starter families, or you need bigger houses. There is then also things to think about, such as affordable housing, which again, I'm just giving you guys an overview of planning as a system as a whole, but each area has different levels of affordable housing. So once you build a certain amount of units, you then trigger a threshold of affordable housing. In my area, it's 11 units. So if you're building anything more than 11 units, you then have to provide 30% of those units as affordable, which means 80% discounted rate that goes to a housing association. So sometimes it's not as profitable to do a scheme that's larger because the affordable trigger kicks in. You've also got things such as Section 106, contributions to a developer, which is basically a tax for development, which they then use to pay for things like parks, or they say they're going to use that for things like parks, or community infrastructure and stuff that the council would build, roads and that type of stuff. You've then got community infrastructure levy, which is basically the same but in a different wrapper. It's a tax on different rates, so it depends on meterage and square meterage of what area you're building, and then a seal factor might kick in. Not every council has a seal factor, because some councils are pro-development, they want new development, they want people to come in and build stuff and put planning applications in. Some councils don't, so they introduce a CIL structure, community infrastructure levy, as a further tax basically on a developer. And it just makes it even harder. But this is what you need to understand, because when you're looking at developments and planning policy, if you don't understand all this stuff and you miss one of these things, let's say you propose a development and you don't realise there is a Section 106 contribution to make, or you don't realise there is a CIL contribution to make, that could wipe out all of your profit in one hit. And this is the thing with development, right? Because a lot of people in construction especially, the dream is to go into development. It is the dream to go, right, I want to build my own houses, not to have any clients, be my own boss basically, build units, buy the land, get the planning, flip them and sell them. Great, it's perfect, and it's a wonderful place to be in. But it comes with a lot more than you think and you realise in terms of planning, legalities, all sorts of stuff in terms of working out the correct GDV, which is the gross development value, but I won't touch on that. I'll just keep it purely on planning for this episode. It is a minefield, and I think really where I want to push on as well is say that planning is its own little planet, right? You will hear different things in construction. So you've got all these different planets, okay? And they are literally different planets. These people do not speak to each other. So you've got building control, planet 1, that's Saturn. Planning policy, that's Venus. Then you've got the council and the parish council, different planet. They are all on different fucking planets. Not one of them speaks to each other. Not one of them cares what the other one does. People giving out planning permission don't care how you build it in terms of building regs. And building regs don't give a shit on what gets planning for, because they're looking at purely on how you build it so it's structurally sound and safe. And it's all different planets. No one is connected. Everyone is on a different fucking planet, and they only care about doing their job. And this is what you need to remember with anything that's government related or policy related, is that everyone's just doing their job based on the set rules put in front of them. So they make decisions based on that. They are not thinking about everything else. Now, in terms of being a developer and getting planning permission, you've got to consider it all. You've got to know it all to make the right decisions. So planning is a minefield, but the best way to start is looking at that local plan, looking at the local map, and then you'll understand your area so much more. You have a much bigger grasp on what's going on, what's needed, and really what the plan is for the whole community. And those local plans tend to last for like 10 years. So they will always develop a plan and it will be in place for 10 years. And then pretty much once they've released a local plan, it's not long before they start doing the research to start making the next local plan, because it's constantly moving thing the whole time. But what I will say is there is always so many contradictions in planning law and policy. There is always so many supplementary documents that supersede and override the local plan. So you have to really do your research and know it. But that is basically an overview of planning. Once you know and understand it, you can use it to your advantage like I do, and it's something that I will be talking about future as we go on. But you need to get your head around it and really understand it and do your research onto it to really know what you're talking about and how you're going to execute on it. So I hope that's been useful and it gives you an overview of planning. And I will see you on the next one.